Hi guys, welcome to my first ever official YouTube tutorial about the tier setup for this animation. Before we jump into the tutorial, I just wanted to do a little consolidation of the project and a little bit of behind the scenes renders of some of my previous animations too. I feel like it'd be kind of interesting to show this. So a bit about the character and the inspiration, because I get a lot of people commenting about that she looks like one person or another. So I was rewatching a show at the time called Misfits. It's a UK show, and this is based off the actress in there called Antonia Thomas. And the hair and styling is based off of a musician called Jade Nova. So I like her music, and I liked her style. So I thought it'd be cool to kind of emulate the kind of faux locks and the sort of hair jewelry and the sort of big hoop earrings kind of look. So the project was a huge learning curve for me, so I'd never had made my characters move before, so the first time I kind of experimented with that with this character, and honestly it's been one of my most successful projects and something that definitely will take a lot of the lessons in the future with me with my future characters. So for me this project was all about trying to portray real emotions. That was like the thing that really motivated me with this project. I wanted to find video reference online that I liked the look of, and I would try to imitate it and see if I could create a CG character that would convincingly portray an emotion that a real person could actually feel and relate to, because that would be quite groundbreaking, I guess, in the kind of CGI field. We kind of talk a lot about the kind of uncanny valley feeling that we all get when we see like a CG character smiling or emoting, talking, whatever it is. And I wanted to try and break that slightly and see if I could make something that was really convincing and that people would sort of forget was a CGI character and look at it as if it was a real person. And I feel like in some aspects I did that successfully, but of course not without a lot of hard work and a lot of iteration, which I'll sort of show you guys more coherently in the smiling one, which was the biggest and most challenging animation. I spent a long time on that one. So you'll be a bit horrified when you see the first initial renders. But it's because I was kind of just doing initial blend shape tests kind of between, smile closed to smile open, sort of seeing what that looked like. And at this time I was like, this is going to be far too difficult. I'm not going to be able to do this. I don't think it's going to be something I'm ready for. I have this sort of tenacity about me, and I kind of don't like not being good at something. So I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And I really was observing reference images and video footage really closely until I kind of realized how to layer the emotion. So sort of smile closed and then sort of dropping the lip, kind of revealing the teeth. So instead of kind of everything springing on at once, sort of almost as if it's going from one blend shape to another, it's kind of a layering of blend shapes, and kind of it's all done very subtly and in a fluid motion. Okay, so now onto the tier making process. So I've imported into a new scene my sadness animation as an Alembic cache, because my actual scene is quite heavy, and I wanted to just have something that was just easy to kind of show you guys, and it's not too overwhelming. So the first thing I'm going to do is select the model and then make it paintable, because we're going to draw on one of the paint effects onto the head. So going to just draw that on like this, kind of drawing on where I want the path of the tier to flow, and then I'm going to select it and then go to modify, convert, and convert it to a curve. So paint effects to curves. And you can delete the stroke now and just keep the curve, and then we can rebuild it, because obviously it's got lots and lots of CVs and it looks really messy. So we can just rebuild it, makes it nice and smooth. And then we can use the curves, the vertexes on the curve to modify it slightly, like this. And when you're happy with your curve shape, then we'll make the actual teardrop. Cool. So with the teardrop, just a basic sphere, and I'm just going to kind of put it to the top of the curve, and then essentially just sculpt, reshape it just to look a bit like a teardrop shape. This is obviously like a demonstration. I spent more time when I was actually doing this just to kind of make it look good, but I kind of feel like the fundamentals of what I'm doing are here, so you can just kind of spend as much time as you need on it to make it look good. So Okay, so I'm just going to orientate it just kind of to how the curve sits at the start. And then we're going to apply the motion path. So we're going to select the curve and then the teardrop, and we're going to go to the rigging menu and then constrain attach to motion path, and you'll see that the tear flips, which is super annoying, but you can orientate it with the settings. You can click on the tear, go to the motion path node, and then play around with your settings a little bit. And you can also twist it as well to kind of orientate it better, and then just slide your timeline, and then you'll see that the tear follows the curve, and you can kind of just test out that the orientation feels correct as you slide the timeline as well. Okay, so now we're going to shrink wrap our curve to our head. So selecting the curve and then the head, and then clicking shrink wrap, and then you'll see that the curve now follows. And you can modify the curve slightly, you can push it out. The teardrop will follow wherever the curve moves because it's obviously attached to it. So you can kind of modify it and the tear should follow. Okay, you can see there's a lot of clipping, so I'm just going to push the curve out slightly, just centering the pivot and pushing it out. So now I'm going to make the stream. So we're going to duplicate the motion path curve, and I'm going to put 2 curves either side of it so they're parallel to each other. And I'm going to select both the curves and then select the head and then go to shrink wrap again. Make sure that the shrink wrap node is set to closest. And the reason why I'm doing this is just so the curves can conform to the curvature of the face cleanly, and then you can delete the history on the curves if you want to. It's just to get the shaping of the face so it sits cleanly on it. So now I'm going to loft both of these and create a polygon. So this is going to be our stream. If it's black, you can reverse it. It's just the face is the other way around, so you can reverse that. And then you can, and then I'm duplicating the loft. So essentially, so there's no history on it. And I'm just keeping all that stuff as like a backup there if I need to use it again. But this is now going to be our tear stream. And again, there's no history on this, so it's clean now. It doesn't belong to any curve or anything or have any sort of history attached to it. So I'm going to just quickly clean this up a little bit. So I'm going to smooth the mesh, and then I'm going to select it and then the head and then shrink wrap again just to conform to the curvature of the head more cleanly. And I'm just going to play with the offset value slightly just to make sure that it's slightly offset from the face, because now we'll extrude it to add a little bit of thickness as well. The reason for doing this is mainly because I found that in rendering it looked better when it was double-sided as opposed to single-sided. So I'm just going to add a little bit of thickness with the extrusion there as well. Cool. So now what I'm going to do is delete the history on this stream, and I'm going to wrap it to the head. So I'm going to select it and then the head and then wrap. So the shrink wrap is simply just for conforming it to the curvature of the head. Cool. So now you can see that the tear flows along the stream, and then you can of course still adjust the curve slightly just to make sure that it follows the stream a bit more cleanly. The way that this renders, it doesn't have to be perfect because it's obviously it's water, isn't it? It's clear. So you're only really ever going to see like specular highlights to give the feeling of wetness. It's not like you're actually going to see a thick stream necessarily. It will be broken up with, you know, a displacement, and so you just see sort of specular pings. So now I'm going to animate the tear moving along the curve. So I'm just going to use some values similar to what I used in the animation. You know, in terms of how you want the tear to flow, this is the kind of thing that you need to kind of gather reference for and find some video footage of people crying and tears rolling down the face kind of thing. And so you can just see that I'm just putting in some values on the motion path node and sort of keying those. I've got auto key set on, so you can see when it goes into that solid red color, it's keyed. And then if we play it, you can see the tear now flowing based on the keys I've set. So it won't be a linear motion of kind of 0 to 1. It's going to actually, you know, it might go a bit fast and it might slow down slightly when she smiles, and then it will kind of drop down a bit faster afterwards when she's not smiling anymore. So the kind of fake smile that's been animated in there. So I've got this very basic look dev setup. The HDRI that I'm using is just called Blue Photo Studio, and you can find it on the Polyhaven website. And now I'm going to apply two materials, one for the stream and one for the tier, and just going to assign it a preset of clear water. And with that preset, I'm just going to switch on thin walled and then apply caustics, and I'm just going to increase the actual value of the specular color. So instead of a value of 1, it's a bit brighter because I really want it to show through the skin. And this is something, again, that you will experiment with when you, of course, actually got a skin material underneath as opposed to like a Lambert. The transmission value in the HDRI as well affects the caustics in the render. So HDRIs are not great when it comes to caustics. It can actually kind of, it blows up the effect to a point where it doesn't look realistic. So you can actually change the value. So instead of 1, you can reduce it to like 0.23. So you can have a caustic effect, but it's a lot more subtle with HDRIs. When you've got like Arnold lights, they work properly when it comes to caustics. But in this case, I'm using a HDRI. So cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to create a ramp in the opacity of the stream. And this is going to remove the edges. Essentially, it's going to just stop those harsh edges from appearing, so you can sort of play with the ramp there. So this is what it is really with the setup. It's just trying to make sure that stream looks just like a instead of it feeling like a piece of geometry sitting over the face, you just kind of want to feel a slight watery relief over the skin, and that's kind of the idea there. Okay, and now I'm going to create a layer RGB, and this is going to be like a few different ramps for our opacity. So we're going to have one for the sides, and then we're going to have one for the top as well, because I want to stop the harsh edge at the top by the caruncular. So I'm just doing that there. So it's just a very basic look dev setup for this, and it's the kind of thing that just I had to play around with for quite a while until I got the results I liked. And I think it's important as well, because obviously it's water and it's literally completely transparent. You want to find a light scenario that will actually allow you to see the specularity of it, because otherwise it's just, you're not going to be able to look dev it. So find a light setup that you can look dev with. So I'm just going to quickly change the transmission to red here, just to kind of show you guys the stream opacity. So this is when the tear flows is going to reveal the stream. So obviously we don't want the stream to be the full length the whole time. We want, as the tear flows down, we want the stream to be revealed along with the tear. So I'm just literally going to control this with an opacity ramp. So there's nothing complicated. And we're going to use the keys that I used for the motion path. So with this new ramp, we're going to check the direction that it's going, set our keys for the black one, which is going to correspond with the motion path. So I'm going to just copy the tab over so we can look at the values. I'm sure that you could actually just grab it in the animation editor and just copy and paste the keys over, but I'm just going to do it manually here. It's only like 6 keys, so it won't take very long. So this case, going to move it there, set in the key. And you can see on the curve actually where the keys are set. So if you forget the values of where you set the keys for the motion path, you can see them on the actual curve there in the viewport. So cool. So once that's done, then I'm going to now just edit the white one just to be closer to the black one as it moves, because otherwise the taper is going to be too soft and it's not going to actually, you're not really going to see the wetness by the teardrop. It's going to look a bit further away. So I'm just moving the white one about 0.05 away from the black value. So if the black value is 0.3, then I'll put the white one at 0.25, for example. It's just to make sure that the feathering is not too soft, and that the edge or the end of the stream is close to the teardrop. So it's hard to visualize in the viewport because of the RGB layer. It doesn't like showing up in the viewport, but I'll show you guys in the render here exactly what's going on. We also need to set the multiplier in the layered system to multiply. And then when we render, you'll see it working. Yeah, so you can see that the teardrop is just below it. And that's it really. It's as simple as that. So obviously we'll remove the red in the transparency and bring it back to white again. So yeah, now I'm going to add some displacement to the tier stream and making sure to add some subdivisions to it, because obviously we're going to have some noise attached to it now. And so just using a simple noise node and just playing around with the UVs and just making sure that I get something that I like the look of. We kind of want that breakup. We want those like specular pings to pop out, but it's just kind of, it's really a case of playing with it and testing under different lighting situations. Because I found when I was doing the Aria animation that in certain lighting, you know, you barely notice it, and in some lighting, it would really, you can see the pings, the specularity really show off. So I think when it comes to this kind of tier setup, lighting is really going to be key to making it look realistic, and just playing around with the values of the noise and making sure that the noise breakup looks like watery breakup, as opposed to, you don't want it to feel like a pattern on there, or you don't want it to feel stripy, for example. You kind of want to feel like there's a bobbly breakup to it. So yeah, this is just a very quick demo of that process and kind of how I created that setup. And I just spent a lot of time experimenting with it, testing it under different light scenarios, playing around with the noise. I also added some mascara into the tier setup, which I'll show in the actual scene after this, and you know, making sure to gather as much reference as you can to make sure that you're trying to emulate real life as best as possible, really. Yeah, and so obviously when you render the sequence, hopefully it should look pretty decent, and you'll be able to see the final animation for this at the end of the video. So I'm going into the actual scene now, and I wanted to just kind of consolidate everything, showing you guys that it's the exact same setup here, with the sort of tier and the tier stream, the geometry sitting on the face, and you can see in the render there kind of how it looks when it's rendered, when you've put some time into it. The actual mascara effect in there is just by adding a noise into the transmission color, so it's nothing complicated. It just took me a long time to actually experiment, to kind of play around with the values and get the right feel of like a mascara and a feeling of kind of a watery sort of black material inside of the water that felt kind of natural. And when I got the look that I wanted, I made sure that it looked good when it was animating, did a few low resolution tests until I liked the look of it, and rendered it all out, and this is the final result. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. Cheers.